Thank you. Can you hear me? All right. All right. Well, I'm excited to be here. I never thought, be my third year into being with the Alliance that I'd be on stage. I want to thank Andy and Jane for putting all this together. We have the best system in the country. Just a really quick little blurb about my history. As a PT, started part-time. 2 months later, I went full-time with the Alliance, and it's been a run ever since. Moved to Florida, like Adam said. And I want to give thanks to, obviously, my beautiful wife. She's the support behind me. She's the person that keeps the home front going. And then I owe a whole lot to Brandon Manley. Vinny Napoli. Those guys put hours and hours into me when I first got started, so be forever grateful to them. So we're going to get right into things, go really quickly. I got a lot of information to cover. One of the things I want you guys to do is to take notes. There's no way you're going to remember all this stuff, so some of this stuff is going to be for newbies, some for intermediate, and I'm really hoping that even our experienced people will get something out of this. So take notes. A lot of the stuff is on the slides, so take pictures of the slides. We can make the PowerPoint available, though, at the very end. So let's roll. All right. So let me ask you this. How many people would like to make $40,000 consistently a month selling annuities? Okay. Now, how many of you have gone to school to get proficient at it? Okay. So to me, it doesn't make logical sense, does it? Right? It's like we want to make a certain amount of money, but we haven't gotten the education, the financial literacy to do so. We don't question it, do we? I mean, we go to school, we're in high school, and we take what? Algebra, trigonometry, we take chemistry, we take all these different classes, and we don't question it at all. And then we come into the Alliance, and we go, yeah, I want to make $40K a month, just selling annuities. Like, well, what kind of education have you gotten? You know what I mean? So we need to set the bar higher than where we're at. I mean, right now, we don't know what questions to ask. We don't have a system. So think of it this way, guys. Here's how I look at it is the life side is a mirror image to the financial services side or the annuity side, right? So what are we doing on the life side? We're identifying a problem. We're getting the why. We're getting the emotion going, right? We're doing all of those different things in order to get the sale at the very end. But then when we're looking at selling annuities, what do? We identify that they have money, and what's the next thing that we do? We go right to the finish line. Oh, well, I got a guy, right? And we ask one question. Are you unhappy with your money going down? Well, then I got a guy, all right? And so it's kind of like on the life side, if you think of it this way, it would be like you have a new person and you're training them and you say call from the house, but you'd never tell them to develop a why. And what do? Oh, they need insurance. They told me they need insurance. So Marcus, what do we do for them, right? And we skip all the steps and we don't build any why. So to me, it just makes sense that we got to have a system in place like we do on the life side. We make it too complicated. It's not that hard, right? You have to ask questions on the life side. Well, why don't you know your questions on the finance side? Okay? Just because you identify that they have money doesn't make any difference. You've got to know what you're trying to find is you're trying to find a problem, okay? So what you need to do is and I wrote no annuities my first year with the Alliance, just to be very clear, right? I thought it was just going to happen. So what I did is I found the money, right? And then I shot from the hip, okay? I knew a couple questions, and then I kind of would just have to jog my memory or whatever, and we kind of just stare at each other, right? And I was just wondering why, man, these deals, I couldn't get them to the advisor, right? I never could get Chris Norris involved because they didn't even know why I was trying to have him meet my guy, right? So what I did, though, is I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was irritated after my first year with no annuities. I'm like, you know what, this stinks, you know what, but I'm going to go to school. I'm going to read some books. I'm going to get some mentoring. It's no excuse to go, what questions should you ask? And you don't know the questions to ask? Come on, Alliance. Really? We got to know the questions. We got to know if the client says, hey, I got money in the bank. Boom, that's my question. That's my question. That's my question, right? If you can't get out of that appointment and identify a problem, then how are you going to move money, okay? And we got to think big picture, right? I mean, we're looking right now at annuities. We're doing $2 million a year, right? And you're a superstar. Nah, come on, guys. The bar has got to be higher. 5 million should be the standard, right? We should be celebrating the 5 million and above, right? But with no system, we can't get to that 5 million, all right? So let me kind of go through. We're going to get through it pretty quickly. Just think of it, though, as a mirror image of the life side. So real quickly, we're going to go through some of the basics, all right? First impression is crucial. It's just like the life side, right? 90% plus of the message is your tone of voice, how you say it, your body language. Jordan Belfort's book, A Wolf from Wall Street, goes into really good detail. So if you have not read that book, read that book. Think and act like an advisor. So we want to be non-salespeople, right? But if all we think about when we go in there is, oh, I see the money, and all I can think about is annuity, right? Talk to your financial advisors. Is that the first thing that they think of? Okay? People want to be advised. They don't want to be sold. So you got to think big picture. You got to think about moving assets, right? You get control of the asset, everything else falls into place. You get tunnel visioned on what you want, and what happens? Half the time you don't get to the second appointment, right? So here, you got to get financially literate. So if I say the client has non-qualified money, do you know what that means? Everybody know what that means? Okay. What if I say you got qualified money? Do you know what the different types of qualified accounts are? I don't have time to go through it, right? You got to know that. That's a basic, right? A client sitting in front of you and you don't know the difference between a qualified account and a non-qualified account, how are you going to ask the right questions? You're dead in the water, right? So we have a financial literacy. We have a financial literacy course. Chris Norris has done an absolute incredible job to get people's financial literacy up. So if you don't know algebra, what do? You show up for class and go, well, I guess I don't know this, I'm out, right? What do? You figure it out, right? You study. But we do it for a whole year, and we don't question it. And how much time have we put in learning the system of moving money? You know, ask yourself that question. And if you haven't, hopefully you get sick and tired of it. Because if you can't get up in the morning and the excitement of helping put somebody in a better place and making $30K off of one app, if that doesn't get you excited, then you don't need to know this, right? Right? They're not going to just hand over the money to you, right? Advisors don't let it go that easily. So you got to get up to speed. Typically, it's a 2-appointment sale. No problem, no curiosity. Your job is to find a couple of problems and create curiosity, right? You don't regurgitate everything. You don't go on a first date and spill the beans on everything, right? I'm going to just vomit everything right there, right? You create some curiosity, some excitement. That's what you're trying to do to get that second appointment. So no problem or curiosity, no second appointment. Your job is to establish credibility and edify your partner. Don't bring up solutions in that first appointment, right? That first appointment, you don't want to talk about annuities. You don't want to talk about solutions. You want to create curiosity. Well, how do I do that without saying annuities? Say, hey, you ever heard of a secure retirement account? You ever heard of a wealth transfer asset, WTA? No, I never heard anything. Really? Oh my gosh. People are taking advantage of this like crazy with the way the market's going. What about a fixed income asset? Right? I don't have to tell them everything, right? I got to whet their appetite with some of the stuff I can offer so that they want to meet with myself and the advisor, right? Keep the conversation to 10 minutes. Ask open-ended questions. If you start with a yes-no, which I do sometimes, I will. I guess I'll violate the rules. I'll ask a yes-no, but I'll follow it up with an open-ended question. I'm asking questions on the finance side like I do the life side. I'm trying to open them up and get them talking and get the curiosity or get the emotion going right? These people have saved this stuff for their whole life, and get them to talk about what their problem is. Don't badmouth the advisor or firm, all right? Never do that. You will not get deals doing that, all right? We could go into detail about that. Here's a recommendation. Wear fashionable glasses, all right? Okay? All right. So, evidence-based that you look smarter, you're more dependable, and you look more intelligent. All right? I'm just saying, if you look at the annuity leaderboard, do the top 4 agents wear glasses fashionably? All right, that's said. All right, let's go to the next. All right, so these are foot in the door questions. So these are the things that you open up a conversation so that you can have a financial conversation. Hey, is your money insured? Like, I don't know, what do you mean? Oh man, you don't know if your money's insured? Okay, here's another thing. Did you know that you could be getting 5.4% interest on that money? They're like, what? 5.4% interest? Why am I bringing that up? Well, we have guaranteed annuity fixed income rates, right? You got to know what your rates are, what you could potentially give the client. That opens them up to have a conversation. Do you know if your retirement funds are protected from market loss? You know, most clients don't. They think their advisor told them it was safe, right? Have you heard of the rule of 100? So this is an opening. What's the rule of 100? Rule of 100 is if you take your 100 minus your age, that's approximately how much you should have in stocks or equities. I don't call it a rule, I call it a guideline. Really, what does that tell me? There's other factors involved besides age. What it tells me, though, is how much should I put at risk and how much should I keep at safe? As I get older, I should put more on the safe side, right? I got to get more conservative. It opens up the conversation if they've never heard of that before, okay? Filling out the green sheet. Just a couple things on the green sheet that I do as far as opening up the financial conversation is, and this makes sense, right? So it says, I'm going to ask you some very basic financial questions, and here's why. Some of the different 30 programs may not be appropriate for you, Jake, okay? And I don't want to waste your time. So we can eliminate some of those. So I'm going to ask you, hey, where's your 401k? Where's your IRA? And then I'm going to go into questions. So logically, it makes sense on why I'm going to ask them that, right? I want to find out what program's good for them and not waste their time, okay? So here's how you pivot to a financial conversation. Have you ever been in an appointment and they really don't need more life insurance for whatever reason, or they're just not open to it? They're closed down to it, right? I mean, yes, we're going to try, but after a while, I'm not going to fight them, okay? So I'm going to, what I call close down the sale. It's not happened. I'm going to wrap that up, and I'm going to pivot. I'm looking to pivot, and that could be to an annuity, something else, okay? So how I'll close that down, I'll say, hey, Joe, you've got enough life coverage. You were super, super smart to get that, all right? Everything looks good with your life coverage, but hey, while I'm here, let me look at a couple of different things and see if there's anything that you could be taking advantage of that you're not before I leave the house, okay? Sound fair enough? And it opens you up then so that they're non-defensive because they think that you're going to argue about life insurance, okay? And you keep coming at them and the barriers go up. Now I've extinguished that and I've pivoted over here and now I'm looking for where I can help them out, okay? So goals for retirement income or retirement money. Here's some of the things I'm trying to find out. Hey, what do you want accomplished with this money? If you don't know what you're trying to accomplish, how can you say an annuity is the best form or know what to do? So some of the things I'm looking at is like, hey, do you need this money to live on in retirement? You need it just to be a safety net in case you have a major illness. Do you want to pass it on to kids? Are you looking to get the highest interest rate? Are you not losing what you've accumulated a lifetime? Is that important to you? And get them to open up. Tell me more. Why is that, or how is that a concern for you? Okay? And here's a lot of times what I tell clients is, hey, normally when we look at people's situation, their goal for their money and where their money at is mismatched. And if we don't do something about it, you'll always be mismatched. And the reason that you bring up something, you don't know what the problem is, right? But you get a gut instinct. These people have a gut instinct that something isn't right, and they don't know what it is. And if we can't identify it, how can we help them out, right? We've got to get up to speed on it, okay? So those are some of the different areas. Now, here's a hot button. So you're thinking, okay, well, what can I bring up in this appointment to come up with a problem? So I have what's called a checklist, and I'm going through it, okay? So I'm thinking income. How important is income to them, right? Are you worried about running out of money before you run out of time? The market, we know our market questions. I think we're pretty good at the market questions. You know, hey, is the money sitting there? Is it protected from creditors and lawsuits? You ever thought about that? You get sued and lose a judgment, wipes out your whole retirement. Well, how can that happen? All right? You should know if that's available. We've got vehicles that can protect that. And you got to look at your state laws, okay? Taxes, fees, interest. So these are the things that I'm mentally checking through. And if I identify a problem and it's not a problem for the client, guess what? It's not a problem for me. I'll fix it later, right? I'm not there to argue. I'm there to identify 2 areas that I feel like I can help them out and create the problem and create the curiosity so then I can come back and close it, all right? So what I think you have to do, and here's where I was negligent in all of these things, is different questions for where the money's at. I'm not going to ask somebody that has money in the bank, okay? I'm not going to ask them, well, how do you feel about stock market losses? They'll look at you like you just fallen out of the turnip truck, right? That doesn't make any sense, does it? So if their money's sitting in the bank in a non-qualified account, what are the questions you're going to ask? And I should be able to point at you and go, it's this, it's this, it's this, with no hesitation. How do you do that? You train. You get the education and you rehearse like you do on the life side, all right? We saw it where you were about getting 5.4% interest. And try to find out why, a reason how there's so much money sitting in that account, all right? You're trying to get the person to tell you what the problem is, just like on the life side. And that's how you can kind of walk them right into the sale, okay? And you can see some of those different things. I'm going to move on here. Stock market, here's some of the different questions. Have your retirement accounts gone up and down lately? How does that make you feel? We try to get the emotion on the life side. You don't think there's a lot of emotion on the finance side? I mean, yeah, a little bit more, right? We're asking for $50 on the life side or $100. They don't have much to risk. And then we don't build any emotion on somebody who saved $250,000, 40 years, right? And we think a couple of questions is going to seal the deal, right? There should be a ton of emotion there. If you ask them, they will divulge and you will find their problem very quickly if you just ask the right questions, okay? Here's another thing, lawsuits, risk, fees. So here's one thing I say to people, and this is especially being in Florida. Why do I know this? Because I went and found it out, okay? I needed to know, I need to have some ammo. So money that's sitting in a checking or savings account that's not in an IRA, a 401k, money in the bank, right? CDs, and they got $250,000 in there. So I know they're safe, right? They're thinking safety. They don't want to take market risk. So say, goodness, that's a lot in there. So do you think there's frivolous lawsuits in Florida? Have you ever, when you drive down the freeway in Florida, what do you typically see? Morgan & Morgan, right? You see all kinds of, I said, hey, did you know that where your money's positioned right now? Has anybody ever told you that if you were sued and lost that lawsuit, 100% wiped out? The attorney does an asset check, finds that you have it positioned there, it's in the wrong place, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, guess what? Gone. Has anybody ever shared that for you? No, I never heard of that. Okay, yeah. Check your state laws, right? You need to do your due diligence and see if that's an option and how the annuity is covered in your state. Risk. Are you conservative, moderate, aggressive? Hey, do you know what your risk score is? Never heard of it. Risk score? Well, my advisor says I'm conservative. I was like, well, what does that mean? What's conservative? He said my money's safe. I was like, oh, so you mean that you can't lose any money? It gets them thinking, right? I was like, hey, my partner can figure out a risk score. You know what that is? That's like a speed limit sign. It gives you a score from 0 to 100. Zero standing still, hundreds as fast as you can go. Wouldn't you want to know exactly how much risk that you're taking? You know? Have no idea and you saved all this money for 40 years and you don't know what the risk score is? I mean, that's my thinking, right? Not saying that to the client. But we can find out what their risk score is and give them a tangible thing. And then fees. Do you know how much you're paying in fees? You know, people have no idea. They turn it over to somebody and have no idea. So our job is to get in the middle of that thing, right? And show them stuff that they probably aren't even aware of. That's how you get the business. That's how you move money. It's a start. Current advisor. How'd you find your current advisor? How many people are scared to ask about that current advisor? They got an advisor and you go, oh, good night. You know, what do I do now? I was like, you got an advisor? Oh, of course you do. Yeah, everybody does, right? Got $500,000? Of course you got an advisor. Hey, how'd you find him? How long have you had him? I bet he's a good guy, right? What am I trying to do? I'm asking questions so I can get ammo. I'm going to have to get in the middle of that relationship at some point, right? It's coming. So the more information that I can just naturally divulge, hey, I know where to position. I know where I can get that wedge drawn, okay? Lost income. What's going to happen to, hey, Joe, when you pass away, what's going to happen to the income? You're struggling now, but you lose Joe's pension and half the Social Security. Hey, what's the game plan? Nobody's ever thought about that. Like, oh my goodness, right? Then you sell more life insurance, right? You can move money. Money in the 401k. Okay. So after the sale, after I've identified the couple problems, maybe it's taken me 10 minutes, I've created the curiosity. So here's the thing I'm thinking. When you're brand new, you may do 10% of the lifting, right? So a brand new person, maybe you get a few questions down, okay? Maybe it's too much to ask you to do all these and figure out where the money's at and all these different questions. Hey, pick something, stock market questions, right? And at least know those. But our goal should not be to just know 3 questions and then call the financial advisor and go, hey, look, they got $450,000 in the bank. Do your job, right? I mean, I'm sorry. That is difficult to do all the building and to find the why and to find out what their goal is for the money. How many people have this has happened? So I laugh because it's happened to me. And you wonder why. So you got to be asking yourself, so you feel like you found the money, you set up an appointment with BAM, and then it's 2 days out, and then the next day the client calls you and goes, yeah, you know what, I was kind of thinking about it, I think I'm fine. Yeah, appointment's done. You can't get back in, and you go, gosh, I wonder what in the world, why did that happen? I started asking myself, I was like, what in the world? I mean, well, I got a guy, right? But the client's thinking, I already got an advisor. You haven't given him a reason why. And you get one shot, guys, really, right? You get kind of one shot. Yes, we do a second appointment, but you kind of get one shot to get that money. And you got to build the why. You got to, like Marcus said, I love what he says, is peel the onion back. It's not one question. It's peeling it back and going deep with them, okay? So second appointment, too. So you guys can read that. I'm not going to take time to read that, right? Send in the green sheet. So the goal should be is for you to start maybe at 10%, and for us all to raise our standard of financial literacy, our questions, and our process, and we got a process, guys, is to get you guys to the point, me included, 90% of the heavy lifting. Just like on the life side, you're calling your upline for that last 10%, right? We're so disconnected from our advisors. Our advisors over here and our insurance agents are over here because we look at it differently. We look at the 10% and let that advisor do 90. No, guys, we got to raise our standard. We got to do 90% of the work and pull the advisor in, yes, every time to do what they can do, and that's talk about the financial part of it that you can't talk about. That should be the goal, all right? You got to do the heavy lifting. We will close way more business. You'll lose a lot less deals, okay? So, gosh, I wish I had more time on this, but here's how I close these deals. So this is a way that you can come across as a non-product pusher, okay? So what do I do is I sit down with these people and I know they want to get their money safe, okay? So this is a safe conversation. I say, hey, Joe, did you know there's about 7 places that you can park your money? And this isn't including IULs. I leave IULs out of this. So 7 places you can park your money that are safe. And I go through the pros and cons with them, and I walk them through this. What are the pros and cons? Checking and savings, right? I'm not going to go through them all, but, we sit there and go through that. Money market. Have you heard of a money market? Education. Right? Very basic, like a savings account, just earns more interest. We can get about 4.93% on a money market right now. That's real liquid. We could put it in CDs. Most people know what CDs are. Treasuries. I don't know what a treasury is. Well, it's paying about like a CD right now. It's backed by the full faith and credit of the government. My partner helps me with these CDs and these money markets and treasuries. But let me show you a couple of other areas you may not be aware of. And I'll go through the fixed index or fixed annuity, and I'll show them you can go through a 2-year to a 7-year, right? You can get this interest on a 2. The longer you keep it, you get a better interest rate. And then I show them the fixed index annuity, and I show them the pros and the cons, okay? And so after that, what I do then is I say, hey, Joe, what do you like about what I showed you? They're like, you know what? I said, that fixed index annuity makes a lot of sense. I was like, yeah, it does. Well, how come you say that? What interested you in that? And they tell me, well, Jeff, it's the only place over there that lets you take advantage of the market. The others, you just settle for a certain amount. It's like, okay, what else you like? It's like a menu. I don't care what they choose, right? We're so focused on annuities that all we can think about is lasering in on that annuity, right? How about gathering the asset? Letting the client 9 times out of 10 is going with the fixed index annuity. I haven't sold them at all. They go, hey, Jeff, I like that one. Yeah? What else you like? I like the money market. Oh, yeah, my partner helps a lot of people with that. Yeah. You like both? Well, we can do both. Okay, cool. Well, what's the next step? I was like, oh, I'm glad you asked. There is no close. They're picking off the menu. They're all safe. They're all good, right? But think of it this way. Gather the asset. Be long-term thinkers, right? Long-term thinkers. What's a long-term thinker on this? I don't have to worry about the fixed index annuity right now. My partner can help them put it in a money market, 4.93% interest. Hey, what happens a year from now when money markets go to 2%? Another conversation. Do you think it's appropriate to do annuities at that time? That's when the only one on this board that's going to do anything is a fixed index annuity. The other stuff's coming down. You get the annuity on the back end. Gather the asset. Don't think like a salesperson. Think like an advisor, okay? Third-party articles. So these are huge, okay? So I have a close binder, and I have it with me on that second appointment. So I have certain articles that are ammo for me. What are they? I have in Florida, I've got the state statute that tells me that annuities are creditor and lawsuit protection. They don't have to believe me. Hey, look, it's right here. Let them read it. Somebody else is telling them, okay? Susie Orman's book about variable annuities, fixed index annuities, Forbes articles, fixed index annuity graph. American Equity's got a good graph that I like to show people, and it visually can make sense to them and keep it very simple, okay? Annuity video with Warren Buffett, WebPress. If you're a member of President's Club, which everybody should, you want to sell annuities, right? Be a member of President's Club, another step, right? Education, you can use that. If you guys want to know more about these, I have these armed with me, so if the conversation comes up, I can pull that thing out. I'm ready to go, okay? It's time to close. All right. So here's some tips. Keep it simple. We have it in our mind that this is so difficult. We're just lost, right? It's like, I don't know what questions to ask, okay? Get educated and keep it very simple. A 10-minute conversation. But if you ask the right questions, get the heat, get the why, then set the advisor up, it's not as difficult as you're making it out to be, all right? Always do what's in the client's best interest. That goes back to what I just talked about a minute ago, right? They really want to do a money market. They just, I want my money liquid right now. But you're there sitting them you're there convincing them that a fixed index annuity is the right thing, right? And now you're just pushing and pushing and pushing. Like, hey, man, that's cool. Yeah, my partner does that. He'll help you out. It's really paying good interest right now, okay? So I'm gathering the asset. Practice your questions. Rehearse, okay? I asked people, too. I was like, well, I want to sell annuities. I was like, okay, well, how much have you practiced? What's your process, right? To me, I didn't have a process, but I knew it. I was like, man, I really stink at this. I thought it was just going to kind of happen, you know? I thought, man, I just get Chris involved. It's just going to happen. And I realized, man, my process was no process, you know? So what's your process? They say this, man, you got to be on the ball. You got to know what you're doing if you want to help these people with these big products, okay? So you should set a goal, too. Brandon and I have talked about this multiple times on what it can do to your organization. Your goal should be to get 3 appointments or whatever. It could be more. Say 3 appointments a month with BAM and get 1 closed. That's an extra $60K a month for most people. That'll change your business right there. You don't think that that's going to help recruiting? If we've got a bunch of people over here doing $5 million minimum and all these other organizations, we got some top performers out there, and we want to recruit them, and we say, hey, look, we are the company that sells annuities, and we got a system, and we know how to do it. We sell it at a top level, and they can't get that where they're at. That not only helps personal production, that helps with recruiting, and your numbers go through the roof, right? Don't cross the line of giving financial advice. So you got to be very careful. Do what you can do as an insurance agent. Let the advisor pull them in to do the advising, the financial stuff. You can't say an IUL or an annuity is an investment. You cross the line. It is not an investment. There is no risk, okay? Try hard to get that financial statement. Just flat out ask them. Say, hey, we can give you a better picture of what's going on. My partner can. Hey, why don't you grab that statement real quick? We'll take a look at it. We've got to make sure that we're going to show you what's in your best interest, okay? What's the financial statement? To me, it's like the other sports team giving me the playbook. They say, hey, Mike, here's the playbook, right? And you're like, gosh, I wonder if they're running a pass play or a run. I know they're running a run play. I mean, how much does that help me having the playbook? The statement gives me an opportunity to know that it's not a he said, she said between me and the advisor. The facts are right here. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what the advisor says. I've got the blueprint right here. And once you know what you're doing, you can sell off of that with the help of the advisor, okay? Know your fixed indexed annuity key points. Like if I were to ask you, I was like, well, what are the benefits? You're recommending a fixed indexed annuity. What are the benefits? Give me the 4 benefits. And you're like, and you expect to sell it? Right? You're promoting it, and you're trying to close them on something that you don't know, right? So what are the 4 benefits? Well, look, it's huge. I believe that these are in the client's best interest. I'm passionate about it because I know people got way too much in the market. They're not getting the best bang for their buck. Whatever the thing is that I'm trying to accomplish, but here's the 4 things that they're trying to that the annuity can accomplish. It's the only option on the safe side that guarantees you an income for life. It's the only one that provides creditor and lawsuit protection. And most people I talk to are like, never heard of that. If you study and you go out and do some independent research, it's easy to find, right? If you called BAM and you start having conversations with the advisor, they tell you that. Yeah, just check your state laws. We can check it and find out. It's the only vehicle that lets you participate in the market gains without risk of principal and interest. And you got to know the difference between a variable annuity and a fixed index annuity. People think of annuities, they think on the variable annuity side. That's what they think of, okay? This is off topic. I'm going to go back because I think this is real critical too, because you're going to see this a lot, so came to mind, rabbit hole. So I've got money in the checking account, non-qualified account, and you feel like you did your part, and you bring your advisor into the picture, and you go, well, hey, I got a guy that's going to help you with this. Do you know what that client is thinking when you start pulling in the financial advisor right then? Too quickly? Is they're thinking, Oh, no, I don't want to do that. That guy's going to talk me into getting in the market. Cancel, right? That's where you got to get proficient enough to where you got to do the heavy lifting. Because you try to pull that financial advisor in, that client's thinking, I don't want to talk to a financial advisor. I don't want my money in the market, you know. But we're thinking, oh, that's perfect for the fixed index annuity. And you see the gap on what they're thinking and what is actually happening. Okay? Solidify the sale. So this is something you could do a long talk on. So how many of you, when you actually get that annuity, are prepping the client on how to handle, if there's an advisor involved, how many of you are prepping that client on exactly what's going to happen when two things are going to happen, right? They're either going to get a call from the advisor or they're going to call the advisor, period. So I have to prep that client on what to say. Because if I don't, you don't think the financial advisor can kill your deal with no prep? How many of you have written an annuity, you're like, oh, licking your chops, right? And you're just waiting for the commission to get in, and the client calls back, my guy can do it. Yeah, he told me he can do it. Exactly what you said, he could do it. It's less work. Don't have to move my money. Okay? You've got to know your stuff so that you can prep that client on what to say. So if the advisor's going to call them, for instance, I've got to prep them. I've got to tell the client exactly what to say. Joe, your advisor's going to call you, okay? Here's what he's going to tell you. He's going to find out what you're doing, and he's going to talk you out of it, okay? Number one, I would tell people, if the advisor's doing his job and he really could do what he's supposed to do, don't you think he would call you first? And you're paying somebody for that? Okay? They don't even think of that. And the other thing I say, hey, thank the person. You did a wonderful job for me. Guess what? It's not a personal decision. It's a business decision. I've just decided to do something a little differently. Well, what is it? Don't get into detail. I tell them, don't get into detail unless you really want a headache. Just stay with that. They ask again, say the same thing. Ask again, say the same thing. Hey, not going to go through it, but thank you so much for your service. Okay? And leave it at that. Last thing, and then I'm out of time here, guys, is solidify the sale. Okay? So always ask a question, how do you feel about what we did today? And make sure it's wrapped up before you leave that house. All right? I'm out of time. Jeff Schulz. Thanks, guys.